In this video, we're going to go through how to complete a position paper, also known as Assignment 3. What you'll notice when you're looking at this assignment is that you're presented with a topic that is considered controversial. This means that Canadians may vary in opinions on this topic. You'll also be provided with 3 citizens that will have 3 varying perspectives on this issue as well. This will allow you to inform yourself on the topic if you don't know anything about it, but will also let you explore the issue. Ultimately, at the end of this assignment, your goal is to show that you understand a wide range of perspectives and you picked a perspective and you're able to defend it using facts and examples. It's important that before we start writing, we prepare ourselves. Now, this topic may be a topic you've never considered before or have discussed in class, and that's okay. You have to use what you know about the world, and the best way to do that is to read each source. You're going to highlight all of the ideas you agree with in one color and all of the ideas you disagree with in another. It's okay if you agree and disagree with various points for the same citizen. What this will do is allow you to visually see which citizens you agree with more or less, and you'll also be able to see which points you'd like to bring up in your own perspective and which you'd like to argue against. Step 2 is to identify the ideology of each citizen. Write beside each citizen what their perspectives are. Usually, one will lean strongly to one direction, and one will lean strongly in the opposite direction, and one will be more moderate. But it's absolutely fair to say that 2 lean more in one direction than another. For example, Citizen 1 is an isolationist. The topic is, should Canada participate in foreign conflicts? And she says that Canada shouldn't intervene. The second citizen is an interventionist. But more specifically, he believes in military intervention and peacemaking. He says we need to impose a military in countries in order to have a strong presence. And the last citizen, we'd consider her to be moderate. While she does believe in intervention, she believes that it shouldn't be combative. She's more of a humanitarian who wants us to go and help countries with aid, but not intervene with our military. So now we're going to start with paragraph 1. This paragraph is really important as it's going to set the stage to all of your background information. So the first thing you're going to do in this introductory paragraph is take a look at the issue and examine where Canada currently stands. What is the perspective of the Canadian government today on this issue? Why would Canadians even be debating this issue? Are there any examples, evidence, or events you can include? So for example, maybe perhaps there's a war right now that Canada has soldiers fighting in. And then you're going to talk about how the source relates to the topic of the course, which is nationalism. Where do we fall in relation to this topic? You're going to continue on by describing some perspectives on one side and some on the other. So you may use the sentence, some believe, and then explain what some people might answer. And then, inversely, you're going to discuss what other people would believe. And then finally, the last sentence in your introductory paragraph is your position. You need to list the criteria or viewpoints that make up your position. And you can include the question as part of your thesis statement. So for example, your last sentence could say, I believe the governments should intervene in foreign conflict if, and give me your criteria. Then we're going to examine the 3 citizens. So first we've done an introductory paragraph, and now we're going to examine Citizen 1. In this second paragraph, we're going to examine what their perspective is. What is the citizens' perspectives or beliefs on nationalism? Now I want you to look back at all of the information that you've learned in this course so far and examine various ideologies. Perhaps this person is advocating for or is against some type of nationalism, whether it's ethnic, civic, cultural, or religious. Perhaps they're discussing sovereignty, self-determination, isolationism, unilateralism, militarism, patriotism, or independence. You can take your pick of whichever words you feel best fit that character. Perhaps they're more of an internationalist. They believe in humanitarianism, interventionism, globalism, multilateralism, diplomacy, and interdependence. Perhaps they're an extremist and they believe in ultranationalism or global domination. Or perhaps they believe in supranationalism or global unity. So you're going to discuss what their perspective is. What is their ideology? Then you're going to describe why some people would support the position of the citizen. What are the benefits of their argument? And explain. Essentially, you're really talking about the pros of their argument. Then you're going to continue on talking about why some people might disagree with the argument. Again, you're going to talk about any negative consequences to their position and explain. This is like the cons of the argument. It's critical in this paragraph you don't include your own viewpoint. There is a mark specifically designed to evaluate your ability to understand somebody else's perspective. So this is your opportunity to show that you understand what other people are saying and the pros and cons to their arguments without putting your own viewpoint here. Now we're going to repeat this process for citizen 2 as well. Again, you're going to examine what is the citizen's beliefs or perspectives on nationalism. We're going to look at any terms that associate with nationalism, like ethnic, civic, or cultural, or religious. We're going to look at sovereignty, self-determination, isolationism, unilateralism, militarism, independence, and patriotism. Are they more of an internationalist, believing in humanitarianism, interventionism, globalism, multilateralism, diplomacy, and interdependence? Or are they more extremist with ultranationalist beliefs of global domination? Or do they believe in supranationalism and global unity? Once you've examined their perspectives and you explained why the term you've chosen associates with their perspectives, you need to look at the pros now. You're looking at why some people would support the position and what the benefits of their argument are. Then you're going to examine the cons. You're going to talk about why some people would disagree and what are the negative consequences. Again, it's critical here that you're evaluating the source's perspective only. Do not put your own opinion in. Again, we're going to repeat this process for citizen 3. We're going to examine their perspective and what their beliefs on nationalism are. Again, we're going to refer to the information that we've been provided. We're going to examine where they fall on the spectrum. And we're going to explain the benefits of their argument, looking at all the pros. And finally, we're going to examine the negative consequences or the cons of their argument. Finally, we're going to take a look at those 3 paragraphs we've just completed, and we're going to make sure we did not use the word I anywhere in there. This is simply to evaluate your ability to understand another perspective. At this point, the marker can actually mark the first category of the rubric, which is exploration and analysis. How well did you explore the issue? And did you explore various points of the issue? This is why I want you to examine all 3 sources, because it shows a real depth of understanding. So in order to get 100% on this category, your exploration needs to be insightful, comprehensive, thoughtful, and thorough. So if you examine all 3 sources and describe the pros and cons of each, you should do well in this category. Please note that if all you do is simply copy the source, you can't score higher than 20%. And if all you do is summarize the source by saying what they said, you can't score higher than 40. You have to add original thought, like discussing ideologies and pros and cons. Next, we're going to fill in the last paragraph, paragraph 5. Now, this is not a conclusion. This is your perspective. This gets its own category in the rubric, so you have to put all your effort into this paragraph. In this paragraph, you're going to tell me what you think. In this paragraph, you need to convince me to agree with you. So first, you're going to restate your thesis, I believe, and then fill in whatever the question was asking. What is your perspective on nationalism? Where should we fall? Describe each element of your position by explaining why and providing evidence, examples, or events to show why you are correct. It's important that when you're explaining, you actually use things that are happening in everyday society. Perhaps you know something you've heard in the news, or perhaps you remember something from history. Then at the very end of this long paragraph where you explained and defended your position, you're going to reflect by reiterating your thesis and what is your perspective on nationalism. In this category, your mark is based on how convincing you are. So it has to be full of facts and examples to persuade me. When the marker's examining this paragraph, they can mark your quality of the argument. Did you use support and evidence? And do you clearly understand social studies? So in order to get 100% in this category, you need to be convincing, logical, specific, and accurate. You clearly have a thorough and perceptive understanding of this course. So in summary, you have written 5 paragraphs. Your intro has explored why this is a debatable issue, especially in Canada. In paragraphs 2, 3, and 4, you've explored the pros and cons of each citizen and included what ideology they fall into. And in paragraph 5 is where you persuade me to agree with your position. At the end, the marker can examine your communication. How organized and coherent is your writing? Did you have good sentence variety and word choice? How well was your vocabulary matched to the curriculum? Did you use lots of terms? Sentence construction, grammar, and mechanics are also very important here. And of course, we examine the proportion of error to the length and complexity of the response. So the longer the response, the less your errors count. To get 100% in this category, your writing must be fluent and purposefully organized. If you follow this structure, you should be okay with organization. You also have to have an engaging voice. Your vocabulary should be precise, and you should have confident control of sentence structure. So take a look at your paragraphs and see how many capitals and periods you have. If you only have 1 or 2 periods, perhaps you need to go back and edit. Now let's look at how to format. We want this to look really professional, so we're going to start with a simple title, Assignment 3. We're going to keep the font professional by using Times New Roman or one of the other default fonts. Don't go with anything fancy. Font size is critical. Don't try to enlarge it past 12-point font because it doesn't make you look professional. Make it easy to read at 12-point font and don't go any bigger or smaller. Remember to double space your entire assignment. That being said, there shouldn't be extra spaces between your paragraphs. And each paragraph should be aligned to the left and indented. And finally, don't worry about any fancy headers or footers. Just put your name in the footer at the bottom, because on the diploma exam, all of that gets put in and it's replaced with an ID number. Finally, after you've looked over everything here, you can turn it in.